if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably of a class where you're not as hard hit as a lot of people. So it's a lot easier to enjoy. We're of that class. We're fortunate to write about an industry that's growing. We don't have to work in a warehouse. We don't have to work as a delivery driver. We don't have to work in a Congolese mine to get the rare earth metals and copper to go in an Amazon server. It's good times for some.
I want to keep that in there, but I don't know how. Welcome to the AI Business Podcast. This is episode 18.
We made it. We made it to episode 18.
In this episode, AI Business Podcast, we are going to talk about all things AI and business related to Amazon. Now, we're not trying to go through all the big tech companies because we've gone through Google and now it's Amazon. You're going to think we're doing Facebook next. I assure you that's not the case. But we're doing it because Jeff Bezos, as of last night, he is no longer going to be the CEO of this major enterprise come July of 2021. And he's stepping down, and in replacement of his old role will be a guy named Andy Jassy, a chief executive of Amazon Cloud Computing. Jeff Bezos started Amazon in 1994. And according to a New York Times report, he said the question he got asked the most is, hey, what is internet? I guess the question in 2021 we're asking is, why is internet?
The thing is, how is internet? And the how for more and more cases of the internet is it's hosted on Amazon Web Services.
In case you're wondering, joining me as always is Sebastian Moss. We're not going back. Yeah, we're plowing through here.
I was waiting for my introduction.
Deputy editor of so you jump in, yeah. So you just force your way in there.
Always.
Kind of like a Blue Origin spaceship. Deputy editor of DCTV, Sebastian Moss.
Hello, everybody.
And of course, you recognize his voice and hopefully his writing too. He's our global editor, Max Smolaks.
Hello there.
Right, Bezos. So Bezos leaving. Is the S silent? Can we talk about this now? What is Jeff Bezos' middle name? Nobody knows.
It's Jeffy B.
Jeffrey Bezos.
It's Jeffrey Preston Bezos.
Are you serious? Oh, it's too waspy.
It's very waspy. But okay, so he's stepping down. Sort of. He's going to Q3. He's going to become executive chair. I just want to, hats off to the guy. Hell of a run. If your job is to become the ultra capitalist of the 21st century, like he has set the bar high.
25 years of marvelous ascension to
from a couple 100,000 from your parents to $1.6 trillion in market cap.
I think he's at this point worth $188 billion, and I don't know how many zeros in there.
It's a lot of zero, and you have to remember he would be worth more if he hadn't gone through a messy divorce where he had to pay out 30 odd billion in Amazon stock.
How his ex-wife is spending the money a little bit later. I've got some interesting numbers there.
Like it's important to look at the this winner of the economic Hunger Games that is Jeff Bezos and how he was able to create this empire. So as we all know, it started off as a book company selling online, but that was never the end goal. From the start, the goal was let's just sell everything online. Early days of the internet, he worked in banking, saw internet kicking off, realized all his banking colleagues didn't know anything about the internet, created a business, ran it at a loss, was happy to run it at a loss, was able to run it at a loss because of something that happened in 2006, Amazon Web Services. So he has this website. Every time there's a surge, there's a nice sale, there's Black Friday, there's Christmas, the website crashes. Right, so they have to build more and more data, buy more and more data centers, put more and more servers in there. But then most of the year, those servers are just running at like half or quarter capacity because it's not Christmas, it's not Black Friday. That's wasted cost. Bezos doesn't like that. Simultaneously, there's lovely new things coming along called virtualization. Put those two things together, Amazon Web Services. Not the first cloud company, but one of the first, and the first one with real vision and backing. And then the person he put in charge of that, Andy Jassy. The other big thing of his is Blue Origin. This is a massive company, right? In 2019, it had 2,500 employees. This is not a small little pet project anymore. They're planning a moon landing for 2024. And because it's his private venture, he owns it 100%.
Since he is the king of Blue Origin, the undisputed leader, he doesn't have to consult anyone to make his decisions.
Not a single soul
since you mentioned Blue Origin, it's pretty clear that that's where his focus will be. Like he's still going to own 10.6% of Amazon, which is the biggest
Yeah.
shareholder.
Yeah, he's going to be chair of Amazon. He said he's going to work on kind of future focused things. Although now that he's less invested in Amazon, psychologically, he might, if he has an idea for a future focused thing, it's why would he do it within Amazon? He could just do it separately as his own business, unless
Right.
there's some part of Amazon, such as the cloud service or the e-commerce, where it makes sense to do it internally.
Jordan Belfort, like he changes his mind. Yeah, and he says, "I'm not leaving," and that's an actual quote from Amazon. So Amazon says he's not leaving, and they would certainly like to impart on you that he's part of the company and he's going to continue guiding it.
Yeah, but even if it turned out Jeff Bezos was really fed up with Amazon, which I doubt, but like didn't want to work with it at all, it's in his interest to tell everyone he's not leaving and he's still taking part because
Correct.
he is a huge part of the valuation.
Don't say anything crazy.
Yeah, don't say anything crazy and just, cash your check.
So Andy Jassy, for like the mainstream press, this is a man out of nowhere. They don't know anything about him. But, well, we don't know a lot about him. He's still a mysterious figure. But for AWS faithful, he is a celebrity. He is the man who speaks us the stage, gives keynotes. He's the man with the vision. And the thing is, we don't even know what he studied at uni. He's kind of like, Wikipedia doesn't have anything. He didn't disclose it. Wikipedia doesn't know how old he is. They peg him at about 52, 53. And generally, Andy Jassy, for a man whose name is familiar to people dealing with cloud infrastructure, has remained like, this sort of gray cardinal. Andy Jassy has certainly leveled up. Yes. And we don't know who his replacement at AWS will be at the moment. They haven't announced it. So, like either in the works, or they're still hunting for candidates. Obviously, huge, massive shoes to fill.
I think we should really, when consumers think about Amazon, they obviously think about the e-commerce site, but we should not discount how crucial AWS was to the e-commerce site's success. They ran that site at a loss. They sold products at a loss, making tons of debt because of that, so that they could get market share. Now they sell them at a profit again, but the only way they were able to do that was because Amazon Web Services was their profit center.
Yes, and as we mentioned before, so Google is trying to realign itself to become an enterprise software company rather than, like primarily a customer-facing company. And Amazon knew this from the get-go, like AWS was there for enterprises. Nobody knew about this. Nobody knew what it was, like it's sort of like, okay, it might be a household name now, again, primarily because of the outages.
And they've had to spend, to make this possible, they've spent tens of billions every year on data centers, on servers, on cabling, on so many software engineers to create special products, especially machine learning products for their platform, and then try and have vendor lock-in, which is the dream, which is create more and more proprietary Amazon services that enterprises use and then realize they can't get off Amazon. It's incredibly vast enterprise to get to this point.
Do you think that him picking Jassy obviously it's a choice of profit, but do you think it's also indicated of where the company is going?
But it definitely seems like the bet is Amazon Web Services is the place where the growth is. It's where the money is going to be. It's core to the company, because you've simultaneously had lots of calls from congressmen, from former AWS employees saying, spin it off. It works on its own. It'll probably do better on its own because retailers and companies that compete with Amazon won't be scared to host on it. Let's just spin it off. This is them saying, no, this is Amazon. Amazon is Amazon Web Services. They're the same thing. Do not take my baby away.
I don't know if it's fair for us to talk about Jassy's endgame. Like, is it also just the same? I feel like Bezos is driven by profit, but also he's also a visionary. He's a Wall Street guy who have this vision of, here's what I think internet should be. And he pretty much changed the internet and the world. As the Amazon seem to be stabilized at this point, are we just kind of be like, okay, fine, Jassy's just doing the boring stuff and Jeff Bezos is going crazy. He's going rogue on Blue Origin.
I mean, like the biggest credit to Jeff Bezos is that he did listen. He surrounded himself with a team of people that he trusted, and mostly he followed their advice. Andy Jassy equally has a very good reputation within Amazon Web Services as being a reasonable boss.
Yes, but like Jassy inherits an empire, like he doesn't need to be a visionary. All the vision has been he's the Steve Ballmer, following Bill Gates. He just needs there to sell the product. It's kind of important to take a look at what they're doing with machine learning, because obviously this is the default choice, and where Amazon goes, like everybody follows. So yeah, on the software side, they've created SageMaker. SageMaker is their brand for machine learning in the cloud, and there's more than a dozen kind of like modules to it, and you can do all sorts of things. There's pre-built models, there's kind of like version tracking and management and MLOps, CI/CD. There's all sorts of things. So yeah, that's their stack. And on the hardware side, they offer a range of hardware, but obviously focusing their attention and love and care on Trainium. Amazon's Trainium is their custom machine learning chip, which they develop themselves for themselves. And they think it's the best way to train machine learning models in the cloud. So their hardware roster at AWS looks like this. They have Trainium as the best thing you can possibly buy in the cloud, right? So also obviously AWS offers NVIDIA, both A100s and V100s, and then we're rounding this list down with something unspecified, which is probably Xeons for cost-sensitive small-scale training. These are G4 instances.
And then they have AMD instances coming, GPU instances coming at some point soon, they've said. But I mean, it makes sense, again, we've talked about this previously, to try and push people to their own Trainium chip, because A, they can produce it cheaper because they don't have to give money to a middleman, and B, if developers get used to using Trainium, they're not going to use Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, or any of the others, because only Amazon has Trainium.
Right. So it basically in their own words, they lower the cost barrier to machine learning.
I think the other big AI and machine learning tool to be aware of with Amazon is Amazon Web Services Recognition with a K, which is their facial recognition tool that they've sold to police forces and agencies and ICE and Homeland Security and the Customs and Border Agency. Hugely controversial. Independent studies have found that it has a lot of inherent bias. When Andy Jassy in one of his rare interviews was asked about the problems of selling facial recognition to police and especially foreign countries, he said, let's see if they somehow abuse the technology. To assume they're going to do it and therefore you shouldn't allow them to have access doesn't feel like the right balance to me.
Yeah, so he's plain dumb, basically.
Yeah. On the topic of kind of issues with AOS as well, so all the big tech companies have made progress towards climate change, renewable energy goals. Amazon, of all the cloud companies, was by far the slowest. Jeff Bezos, again, he's been very slow to that, but now he's announced his own $10 billion Bezos Earth fund, which he says will help fight climate change. A year later, it hasn't really given much money out at all, and there's no real transparency.
I have a relevant factoid. His ex-wife, meanwhile, has really been digging into those funds and giving away Jeff's money. So McKenzie Scott, formerly McKenzie Bezos, the most eligible bachelorette in the world, or July last year, she announced she donated $1.7 billion to 116 nonprofits. So like 6 months later, she says she donated another $4.15 billion to, again, like I think 300 something nonprofits. So she's just set on giving that money away. She's doing that very, very quickly. And unlike her husband, who's definitely, he just makes money. He could never give it away, like he just makes it too quickly. I would guess she's not making money as quickly as Jeff does.
I remember one of his earliest interview when I think it was 1996, when people already see the success of this company. He was driving a Honda. His office desk is made of a door on top of two piles of books. And he's saying like, and the reporter asked him like, well, what do you want people to think when they see this? He's like, well, I hope they see that I put the money where it matters. And that's kind of been his strategy over the years,
Yeah, I mean, their kind of company motto is it's always day one, right? That it's always the first day of this thing, never grow, rest on your laurels. So far, they've managed to keep that up. Microsoft went through a huge dip when they just kind of gave up on trying anything new. Google's going through that right now, where everything new they try, they do half-hearted, they cancel most projects, and then they just run back to making money off ads. Amazon has, despite being a huge company, has kept up that hunger. And that will be the defining struggle of Andy Jassy is, can you keep that hunger up? Because like Max said, they could coast. They're the biggest e-commerce website. They're the biggest cloud company. They could keep doing what they're doing and happily grow for the next couple of decades. but is that enough for them? Probably not. I think, I mean, we could talk for genuinely nonstop for days about all the different pies Amazon has its fingers in. I think another interesting one is Ring, which is their kind of home surveillance company that they acquired that has over 10,000 partnerships with local law enforcement agencies.
My neighbors have one now.
Yeah,
I forgot about it. I forgot they're Amazon.
So they put you can put it as your doorbell, and then the idea is if an Amazon package comes, you can see on your Amazon branded Fire device that there's a delivery, and you can let them in and so on. But they also let law enforcement in. So law enforcement essentially have built this giant surveillance network around neighborhoods without much individual say.
And exactly what you're saying too, where people think about Tim Cook and he's big on privacy. People seem to forget that Amazon doesn't really care much about your privacy. And
they care. They want to monetize it.
I don't understand is why people are not bothered by it. People will queue up to listen to Tim Cook or Steve Jobs. People don't care about Jeff Bezos. I think that's to his benefit that people just fine, whatever. That's just it's a banal. Michael B. Jordan's behind it. You know, not this greedy. In reference to the Super Bowl ad, but it's not. People don't think about the corporation behind it, but they think about Alexa as a banal little assistant of yours who sits in your living room quietly awaiting your orders.
So the previous CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, who was known for saying really stupid things on record. One of the really stupid things he said on record was that Google's job is to get right up to the creepy line and not go beyond it, which is a really dumb thing to admit. But that is one of the reasons that they struggled and was slow to release what eventually became Google Home, because they knew that if they released a microphone you put in your house, people would be much more cautious about it because Google has this reputation as this creepy data harvester. Amazon has managed to somehow avoid that in the public consciousness, despite now being one of the world's largest advertising platforms, despite obviously collecting as much data as it can, despite Alexa accidentally sending one person's recording to another person's house multiple times, despite Alexa being used in murder investigations, and despite the company being very cagey about exactly what it does with all that data. And
it's like standards are different for Amazon because it's just this orange utility thing, you know, like which is surely it's just like neutral, like post service or something, right?
Going back to Amazon's hardware strategy, though, they do launch a slew of products every big event and just in hope that one of them will stick. And I think that's that to me is an interesting approach. They will just say, here's these 5 things you can put in your car. Nobody will do them, but if one of them would become a hit.
I mean, the product strategy is kind of multifaceted. So first off, obviously they have a huge leg up because they have the most valuable shopping homepage in the world and they constantly shove their products on there. And then the other story of the Amazon product is just really boring products like batteries, toiletries, foodstuffs, whatever they can. Whenever they know something is successful coming from a third-party seller or another company, they just copy and paste it.
Yeah, they will. I think at some point they will offer to buy you. That's like years ago, and then when they say no, they will say, "Fine, we'll operate at a loss until you go out of business."
Congressional investigation into antitrust suggested that not only do they offer to buy you and then force you out, they would offer to buy you, get you to hand over tons of proprietary information, and then use that as a blueprint. But we can't say that for sure because that's an ongoing investigation and I don't want to be sued.
One of the defining characteristics of Amazon, I think they want to own the order flow. They want to own detailed information on who's buying what, when, and why. And they have more of this type of information than anybody else in the world. And I think this is where the value of Amazon and future value of Amazon lies. It's obviously data. And that could be another reason why Jassy got the top job, because, you know, like he's a data wrangler. He's used to building infrastructure to make these wonderful, you know, like data projects happen. And Amazon will need a lot of that, and yeah, the requirement that like this chase for, you know, like
everything,
the ultimate knowledge of commercial transactions is going to continue.
It's about dominating that thing, being able to control all of it, lower costs, squeeze it out everyone else, make it harder for everyone else, then offer it as a third-party sales thing. So sell it to other companies, but collect that data and then use it against those companies,
and do it in such a way where consumers are not aware of all that
because it's cheap.
Right.
Amazon's cheap, it's convenient, Yeah, Prime Video is relatively decent now after years of kind of false starts.
Well, we have Fleabag, so
you have Fleabag. You're gonna have your overpriced Lord of the Rings TV show. No, I mean, like I'm fully aware of all the many human is alright issues with Amazon, but I'm an Amazon customer, and obviously, even if you think you're not an Amazon customer, you are via all the things you do online, giving them money because again, the vast majority of the website you visit use Amazon.
Right, we've switched to Jet.com recently, but then quickly after, I think after the first order we placed, they were acquired by Walmart. And it was just like, okay, so it's between Amazon or Walmart. It's just not. It's a terrible choice.
And the weird thing is, yeah, I find myself constantly defending Walmart like they're a good ethical company, which they're definitely not.
Yeah,
they're just less hungry. That's all.
Thank God for that.
They're more content with where they are in terms of success.
Okay, so speaking of hunger, I've been holding on to this too long. Is my favorite Bezos quote. Right, so he acquires this small company. He's at this dinner, and the people there are like, "Oh, so why do you acquire this company?" And he turns to them and goes, "You're the octopus that I'm having for breakfast. When I look at the menu, you're the thing I don't understand, the thing I've never had. I must have the breakfast octopus."
Like, why is octopus for breakfast?
Because he's a billionaire, and they have a different. One of my favorite Bezos pictures is him eyeing up a dead iguana that he's about to eat.
He is very, very good at being a billionaire. You can't deny it. Like, he is Largo Winch, you know? Like, he is that comic book character that we sort of like grew up with, and now he's real. While we were growing up, you know, like working jobs and paying rent, he became a super villain.
Compare him to rival centibillionaire spaceman Elon Musk, and this guy is a picture of serenity and calm. Like, all the scandals surrounding Jeff Bezos, beyond obviously his personal life, his affair, all the scandals are just generic business scandals of business does bad things to become richer, which you expect from a business. They're not Howard Hughes.
Calculated man.
Yeah, Stone Cold. Yeah. He's no Howard Hughes. He's no Elon Musk. He's just a man with a mission.
He's on another level, you can argue.
Whereas Elon Musk is just stoned.
Allegedly. And also busy implanting chips into monkey brains, and somehow environmentalists still like him.
Right. I think Bezos is on another level, though, so it's only more interesting to see what happened come this July, you know, when the transition does happen and when he's dancing into another office.
I would recommend that, you know, fans of Bezos or watchers of Bezos keep an eye on his investment. He has an investment company. It makes a lot of interesting investments in kind of early stage tech companies.
And besides, how many of them are Breakfast Octopus, where you're just like, oh my God, that's a great tip from the great Jeff Bezos, but you're the octopus man.
We're all Breakfast Octopus.
I feel like he probably, if he's a normal person, he would just go for bacon. He would just use bacon as an analogy, but for some reason he chose octopus. That's just like, or Welsh rabbit, I don't know, like a random breakfast item.
How this kind of thinking got me food poisoning, and I had like a very, very bad couple of days in Croatia because I wanted to taste the shark, and apparently shark was off season.
The only difference between you and Bezos, Max, is you get food poisoning.
Yeah, he eats octopus raw and he becomes stronger and wealthier the day after, and you just lay in your bed crying and throwing up into a bucket. All right, if you are interested in what we talk about, and if you're touched by Seb's Communist Manifesto, whatever, he is V. He's Hugo Weaving.
You can find me on Twitter at Seb Moss. You can't find me on Amazon's Twitch just yet, which is a whole other thing we didn't get to talk about. You can find me in emails. You can hunt me down. I'm trying to learn how to draw, so if you know how to draw, please contact me.
And Max, what are you working on? We'll tell the people, instead of where to find you, what's the latest piece you're working on so we get a taste of the editorial flavor.
Okay, well, last week I had a chance to talk with the main PR man of the Facebook Oversight Board, this new organization established by Facebook to solve all of its problems.
Did you nail him to the wall, or what did you do?
It was a very tense conversation. I don't think it's just like, no, I didn't have like a beautiful clear moment of pure journalistic bliss where I grab him by the balls and just keep yanking. That did not happen. It was actually he barely said anything, was visibly annoyed, and yeah, but I got a couple of interesting quotes out of him about how it all actually works. So if you want to read me not nailing this guy to the cross, that's going to be available later this week.
Looking forward to your softball questions.
If you think there's topics or people we should talk to, Max, what's the email address?
Absolutely, it's max@aibusiness.com.
And if you have any comments about sound quality or editing style, you can find me sadly on LinkedIn, because I don't want to tell you anywhere else. So I'm just at Tien Fu on Instagram, I guess, if you want to see some cool photos